My brother announced real family only when excluding me from Christmas dinner. So I made one quick decision that stopped the $15,000 monthly check keeping them from losing their house in 60 days. Hi friends. Your love keeps us going. Subscribe, drop a hi, and share your location in the comments. We're so glad you're here. Let's continue the story. I stared at my phone reading Eduardo's text for the third time, certain I'd misunderstood. Christmas dinner is real family only this year. Hope you understand. My coffee grew cold in my hand as I sat frozen in my downtown apartment, the December morning suddenly feeling emptier than before. Real family only. The words burned themselves into my mind like a brand. I'm Jasmine, 32 years old, and I'd just been uninvited to Christmas by my younger brother. The same brother whose mortgage I'd been paying for 18 months. $15,000. Every single month. Without fail. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my mother. Don't make this difficult, Jasmine. Eduardo is going through enough without your drama. I felt something crack inside my chest. No greeting. No explanation. Just that. I set the phone down carefully, my hands trembling slightly. Through my window I could see families walking below, carrying shopping bags filled with gifts, their breath visible in the cold air. I thought about last Christmas when Dad was still alive, when we were still whole. You take care of them when I'm gone, he'd whispered to me in that hospital room, his grip surprisingly strong for someone so close to the end. You're the strong one, Jazz. Always have been. I'd promised. God help me, I'd promised. But right now, sitting here with my brother's rejection fresh and my mother's dismissal still stinging, I wondered if strength was just another word for fool. Because I'd kept that promise. Even after they made it clear I wasn't really theirs. The truth came out 3 years ago at Dad's 60th birthday party. I remember the exact moment because I'd been laughing, genuinely happy, when Aunt Karen's voice cut through the celebration like glass. Well, at least Eduardo and Bet are really yours, Freddie. The room went silent. Dad's face had gone gray. Mom looked away. And I just stood there holding a piece of cake, watching my entire identity crumble. What did you just say? I'd asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Aunt Karen, already drunk, seemed to realize her mistake too late. Oh honey, I thought you knew. Your parents adopted you when you were 3. After that couple died in the car crash. She said it so casually, like she was commenting on the weather. My father tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. Is it true? The silence that followed was answer enough. Eduardo had pulled me aside later that night, his arm around my shoulders in what I thought was comfort. Blood or not, you're still my big sister. Nothing changes. But everything had changed. I saw it in how Mom's hugs became briefer, how family photos started featuring just her real children more prominently. Bet, my younger sister, stopped calling as much. Till I tried. God, how I tried. When Dad got sick 2 years later, I was there. Every hospital visit, every treatment, every midnight crisis. I held his hand when he died and I promised to take care of them. Even knowing what I knew. After Dad's funeral, the financial reality hit them like a freight train. He'd remortgaged the house for his business, which failed spectacularly in his final year. Mom's teacher pension barely covered groceries. Eduardo, 28 and working retail management, was drowning. Bet, the baby at 25, was in grad school. They were 60 days from foreclosure when Eduardo called me crying. I'd built something. A marketing consulting firm that started in my spare bedroom and grew into something real. Something mine. I was making the kind of money Dad always dreamed about. I can help, I told Eduardo that night, sitting across from him at a diner watching him break down. How much do you need? When he told me $15,000 monthly, I didn't flinch. It was everything Dad had wanted for them. Security. Stability. Home. I'll pay you back, Eduardo promised, gripping my hand across the table. When I get the promotion, when things turn around. I swear, Jazz. I squeezed back. Family doesn't keep score. The irony of those words wasn't lost on me even then. I set up the automatic transfer that week. $15,000, first of every month, like clockwork. I didn't tell them how it meant I postponed buying my own place. How I worked 70-hour weeks to maintain that cushion. How sometimes I ate ramen to make sure they ate well. For 18 months I kept them afloat. I was invited to Sunday dinners, included in group chats, thanked profusely. Mom even started calling me her angel. I let myself believe that maybe the adoption thing didn't matter. Maybe love was enough. Maybe I'd earned my place. Then came that Christmas text. And I realized I'd been buying a seat at a table that was never really mine. I called Eduardo back an hour after that text. My voice was steady, controlled. Can you explain what real family only means? There was a pause. Background noise. I heard Mom's voice saying something I couldn't make out. Then Eduardo, sounding almost annoyed. Come on, Jazz. Don't make this weird. Mom wants it to be just her kids this year. Her actual kids. It's been hard since Dad died and she needs that connection, you know? My actual kids. The words hung in the air like poison. And you agree with this? I asked. Another pause. Look, you're still family. It's different. You have to understand that. I did understand. Finally, perfectly, I understood. Who all is coming? I kept my tone curious, not accusatory. He relaxed, thinking I'd accepted it. Me bet, Mom. Plus, Betty's bringing her new boyfriend and I'm bringing Marcia and the kids. It'll be cozy. Betty's boyfriend. Eduardo's girlfriend and children. They were real family, but I wasn't. I thought about Marcia, who I'd only met twice. About Betty's boyfriend, who none of us had even met yet. They got a seat at the table. I didn't. Okay, I said simply. Thanks for letting me know. Eduardo seemed surprised by how easily I took it. You're cool with this? Mom thought you'd make a scene. Of course she did. Because in their minds I was the outsider who should be grateful for scraps. No scene, I promised. Enjoy your dinner. I hung up before he could respond. My apartment felt different somehow. Smaller. Colder. I walked to my home office and pulled up my bank account. 18 months of transfers. $270,000. Money that could have been my house down payment. My emergency fund. My freedom. Instead it was their comfort. Their security. Their privilege to exclude me. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Dad's voice echoing in my head. You take care of them. But he'd also told me something else, something I'd forgotten. It was during one of his last lucid moments. Don't let them take advantage of your love, Jazz. You've got the biggest heart, but don't let them break it. I'd laughed it off then. Now his words felt prophetic. By morning I'd made my decision. It wasn't made in anger, though God knows I had enough of that. It was made in clarity. I pulled up my banking app and navigated to scheduled payments. My finger hovered over the cancellation button. $270,000 invested in people who couldn't even give me a seat at Christmas dinner. $270,000 in 18 months. And they thought I wouldn't make a scene. I pressed cancel. Then I drafted an email. Professional. Clean. Effective immediately, I'm discontinuing the monthly financial assistance. This decision is final. Best wishes for your future. I didn't explain. Didn't justify. Didn't give them ammunition to argue or manipulate. I just stopped. The relief that washed over me was unexpected. For 18 months I'd carried this weight, never complaining, never missing a payment. Now suddenly I could breathe. My phone rang within an hour. Eduardo. I let it go to voicemail. The Mom. Voicemail. Bet. Voicemail. Text messages started flooding in. Jazz, what's going on? Did you cancel the payment? This is some kind of mistake, right? I turned off my phone and went to the gym. I ran 5 miles, harder than I'd run in years, each step pounding out months of swallowed hurt. When I finally stopped, sweat-soaked and exhausted, I felt more like myself than I had in 3 years. When I turned my phone back on 3 hours later, I had 47 missed calls and 63 text messages. The tone had shifted from confused to desperate to angry. Eduardo's final message stood out. You're really going to let us lose the house over hurt feelings? Dad would be ashamed of you. That one almost broke my resolve. Almost. Because Dad would have been ashamed, all right, but not of me. The next message was from Mom. Jasmine Marie, you call me right now. This is not how family treats each other. I raised you better than this. I actually laughed out loud at that one. Raised me. For 3 years until my real parents died. Then took me in like some kind of charity case. And now, when it suited her narrative, suddenly she raised me. The mental gymnastics were almost impressive. Then came Betty's voice message. Unlike the others, she was crying. Please. I know what Eduardo said was wrong. But Mom's going to lose her house. Our childhood home. Where we grew up. Where Dad lived. You can't let that happen. Please call me back. Please. That one was harder. Bet had always been the sweet one caught in the middle. But she hadn't defended me either. She'd chosen her side. I drafted a response, deleted it, drafted another. Finally, I settled on simple truth. I've supported this family financially and emotionally for 18 months. I did it out of love and a promise to Dad. But I won't be treated as less than family while being expected to act like more than family. You can't have it both ways. The payments have stopped. I wish you all the best. I sent it to the group chat. Then I muted the conversation. I had work to do. A life to rebuild. A heart to protect. 3 days later they showed up at my apartment. All 3 of them. I saw them through my doorbell camera standing in my hallway looking determined. Eduardo was in front, Mom behind him looking stern, Bet wringing her hands nervously. I almost didn't open the door. But I'd learned from Dad that some conversations need to happen face to face, no matter how painful. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. This isn't a good time. Eduardo pushed forward anyway. We need to talk. Now. There was an edge to his voice I'd never heard directed at me before. Something entitled and angry. Mom followed him in and Bet slipped in last, apologetic. I closed the door and crossed my arms, staying by the entrance. Talk. What the hell is wrong with you? Eduardo started, his voice rising. You're going to let Mom lose her house? Over what? Not being invited to one dinner. Kept my voice level. I'm not making you lose anything. I'm simply not paying for it anymore. Mom stepped forward. After everything we did for you. Took you in when you had nobody. Loved you like our own. This is how you repay us. The words hung in the air. Loved me like their own. Not as their own. The distinction was everything. You took me in 30 years ago, I said quietly. I've been paying you back for 18 months. $270,000. That's $15,000 a month. Every month. Without complaint. Without missing a single payment. Betty's eyes went wide. I don't think she'd done the math. And then Eduardo sent me a text saying Christmas is for real family only. So I made a decision. If I'm not real family, I'm not real family's ATM either. The apartment erupted. Eduardo lunged forward, not physically threatening but aggressive in his space invasion. You're holding a grudge over one stupid text? Grow up, Jasmine. Mom's voice cut through, sharp and cold. You've always been sensitive about the adoption. We've walked on eggshells for years and you still throw it in our faces. I felt something inside me harden to diamond. Sensitive. My voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. Eduardo explicitly said I'm not real family. You backed him up. Those aren't my feelings. Those are your words. Bet tried to interject. He didn't mean it like that. You know how Eduardo gets when he's stressed. I turned to her. How did he mean it then? Explain to me the version where real family only includes people I've never met but excludes the person who's been paying $15,000 a month. Silence. They had no answer because there wasn't one. Mom tried a different tactic. Your father would be heartbroken seeing you abandon us like this. That almost worked. Almost. Dad made me promise to take care of you, I said. And I did. For 18 months, I sacrificed my own financial goals, my own future to keep you from losing the house. But Dad also told me something else. He told me not to let you break my heart. Eduardo scoffed. So that's it? You're done? Just cutting us off completely? I walked to the door and opened it. I'm done being your bank while being treated as less than family. If you figure out how to treat me like family, actually family, not like family, we can talk. Until then, yes. I'm done. Mom's face went red. You ungrateful. I held up my hand. Don't. Just don't. You made your choice at Christmas. I'm making mine now. Please leave. They left, but not quietly. Eduardo slammed his fist against the doorframe. This isn't over, Jasmine. You can't just walk away. But I could. And I did. I closed the door and leaned against it, my hands shaking. My phone was already buzzing with texts from extended family. Aunt Karen, your mother called crying. What have you done? Uncle Brian, family is forever. Don't be selfish. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years suddenly had opinions about my character. I turned my phone off completely this time. The next few days were strange. Quiet. I'd grown accustomed to the constant financial anxiety of maintaining that $15,000 monthly payment. Now suddenly that money was mine again. I treated myself to a nice dinner. Alone. Ordered the expensive wine. Didn't check my bank account nervously. It felt foreign. Guilt kept creeping in, whispering that I was abandoning them. But then I'd remember. Real family only. I'd remember Mom's face when she said I was sensitive about the adoption, like my hurt was an inconvenience rather than a valid response to being excluded. I'd remember Eduardo's entitled anger as if my money was his birthright. I'd remember Betty's inability to defend me, her silent complicity in my exclusion. And the guilt would recede. A week after they showed up at my apartment, my lawyer called. You wanted to know about your parents. Your biological parents. I'd hired him months ago after the adoption revelation, but told him to take his time. Now felt like the right moment to know. They were good people, Jasmine. Teachers, both of them. They had life insurance. A trust was set up for you. Your adoptive parents were the trustees until you turned 18. My lawyer, David, met me at a coffee shop downtown. He slid a folder across the table, his expression carefully neutral. Your biological parents, Thomas and Sandra Williams, were careful planners. They had over $200,000 in life insurance. All meant for you. The trust was supposed to become yours at 18. I opened the folder with trembling fingers. There were bank statements, legal documents, photos I'd never seen. What happened to it? I asked, though something in my gut already knew. David leaned back. Your adoptive mother was the trustee. She used it for your care and upbringing. Private school, medical expenses, clothes, food. All documented. By the time you turned 18, there was about $17,000 left. That was transferred to an account in your name. I remembered that account. Mom had given me access to it for college expenses. I'd thought it was their gift. So they used my parents' money to raise me? David nodded. It's legal. Trustees are allowed to use trust funds for the beneficiary's care. But Jasmine, I pulled some records. Your brother attended the same private school. So did your sister. Their expenses were also paid from this trust, listed as household expenses benefiting the minor. My coffee turned to acid in my stomach. They'd used my parents' money to raise all three of us, then acted like they'd done me a favor. There was more. Your biological parents also had property. A small house they owned outright. It was sold when you were 5. Proceeds went into the trust. Your adoptive parents bought their current house 6 months later. The down payment matches almost exactly. I couldn't breathe. The house. The house Mom was about to lose. The house I'd been paying $15,000 a month to save. It was bought with my parents' money. I called an emergency meeting. My apartment. All of them. But this time I held the cards. They arrived separately. Eduardo first, suspicious and hostile. What's this about? Because if you think, I held up my hand. Sit down. Wait. Mom came next, her face set in stubborn lines. Bet last, looking scared. When they were all seated, I placed the folder on my coffee table. I hired a lawyer to look into my biological parents' estate. The temperature in the room dropped. Mom's face went pale. Before they died, Thomas and Sandra Williams had life insurance, property, and savings. All meant for me. All placed in a trust with you as trustee. I looked at Mom. You used every penny to raise me. Which is legal. What's interesting is you also used it to raise Eduardo and Bet. That house you're about to lose? Down payment came from my parents' money. Eduardo stood up. That's bullshit. Mom and Dad bought that house themselves. I pulled out the bank statements. The timing says otherwise. House sold June. Your house purchased October. Same amount. My trust showed it as beneficiary living expenses. So let me get this straight. You raised me on my own parents' money, treated me like I should be grateful, then excluded me from the family I paid to sustain with my adult money, in the house my child money bought. Bet was crying. Mom sat rigid, her jaw clenched. We gave you a home. A family. That money was meant for your care, and that's what we used it for. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're right. You did give me a home. And I've been grateful. So grateful that I've paid you $270,000 over 18 months to keep it. But gratitude has limits. It ends at real family only. What do you want? Mom's voice was quiet now. Defeated. I leaned forward. I want nothing. Not a relationship built on financial obligation. Not a family that only values me when I'm useful. Not a seat at a table where I'm tolerated, not celebrated. I'm done. You're on your own now. Just like you implied I should be. Not real family, remember. The weeks that followed were brutal. Extended family took sides. Most of them sided against me, calling me vindictive and cruel. She's letting her own mother become homeless, Aunt Karen posted on Facebook. The comments piled up. Cousins I'd grown up with suddenly couldn't understand how I could be so heartless. Only Uncle Brian, Dad's brother, called me directly. Your father told me once he worried about how they'd treat you after learning the truth. He saw something shift in your mother. I think you're doing the right thing, Jazz. It takes strength to stop being used. His words sustained me through the hardest moments. Through the voicemail from Mom saying I was dead to her. Through Eduardo's text saying I was a vindictive bitch who never really belonged anyway. Through Betty's pleading calls begging me to reconsider, saying she'd lose her childhood home because of me. Each message confirmed what I'd known deep down. I wasn't family. I was a resource to be managed. I focused on rebuilding. I hired a therapist who specialized in adoption trauma and family dysfunction. In our sessions, I unpacked 30 years of trying to earn a place I'd never really had. They're about to lose the house, I told her during one session. Part of me feels like I'm killing my father's memory. She leaned forward. Your father didn't ask you to light yourself on fire to keep them warm. He asked you to take care of them. You did. For 18 months you sacrificed enormously. They responded by excluding you. This isn't on you. Christmas came. I spent it alone by choice. I cooked myself a beautiful dinner, opened an expensive bottle of wine and watched old movies. My phone stayed off. I didn't cry though I expected to. Instead I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The quiet was gentle, not lonely. For the first time since Dad died I wasn't performing. Wasn't proving. Wasn't earning my place. I was just existing. And it was enough. The foreclosure went through in March. I found out through a cousin's Facebook post. Praying for Aunt Rachel in this difficult time. Losing your home is devastating. There was a photo of Mom standing in front of the house looking small and broken. Eduardo and Bet stood on either side of her. They'd started a GoFundMe. Raised $8,000. Not nearly enough. I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. I drove by the house one last time before the bank took possession. The for sale sign was already up. I sat in my car looking at the windows where Christmas lights used to hang, where Dad used to sit on the porch reading the paper. This house, built partially with my parents' money, kept afloat by my adult earnings, was gone. And I felt nothing but a deep, aching sadness. Bet called me a week later. Her voice was small, exhausted. We're all staying with Aunt Karen. It's cramped. Mom barely speaks. Eduardo blames you for everything, but Jazz, I need you to know something. I found papers when we were packing. Mom kept them hidden. Your biological parents left letters. For you. She never gave them to you. My breath caught. She destroyed them when you hired the lawyer. But I saved copies. I can send them if you want. I said yes. The letters arrived by email that night. My mother's handwriting talking about hopes and dreams for me. My father's jokes, his love, his pride in their daughter. They'd written them knowing they might not see me grow up, wanting me to know I was wanted. Deeply, completely wanted. I read them alone in my apartment and finally cried. Not for the family I'd lost, but for the parents I never got to know. For the little girl who'd spent 30 years trying to earn love she'd already had. In the end, I didn't win. Nobody did. Mom lost her house. Eduardo lost his security. Bette lost her childhood home. I lost the family I'd built my life around trying to belong to. But I gained something too. The knowledge that I deserved better. That love shouldn't require constant payment. That real family isn't about blood or obligation, it's about respect and genuine care. I was finally free. And sometimes freedom is the saddest victory of all. Dad would understand. Wherever he is, I hope he knows I kept my promise. I took care of them until it was destroying me. Then I took care of myself. And maybe that's what he meant all along. If you've experienced family betrayal or struggled with belonging, drop a comment below. Your story matters. And if this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. These stories need to be told.